Creepyphasma 101. Recommended. Look, I'm not like some reviewers here on this website that write a whole essay. I'll write my short review here for you readers. MC. Chat is AF. Pulls multiple baddies in the show. Alabama 100. Reviewers rating. 9. What did you think of this review? November 18, 2021. Goma. Recommended. This show is the ultimate paradox. It's a 10 because it's a 1. It throws rating convention out the window. It sacrifices everything that makes a normal show good for raw entertainment value. It's an unmitigated disaster in the best possible way. Everyone parrots Jiggik and calls it a dumpster fire. But let's be clear, here Franksks is a dumpster fire. This is a dumpster conflagration. A blaze so large and so bright that it somehow becomes beautiful again. If you inhale just deeply enough, really allowing the fumes to fill your lungs, trust me, you can get a pretty good high off this thing. There are a great number of criticisms, both superficial and reasonable, that you can levy against it. Almost every single decision the protagonist makes is the wrong one. All of the characters, really, do things that defy explanation. The twists and turns are wild. You have to have a sense of humor. It's so excruciatingly messy that if you don't laugh, you'll just be uncomfortable. Your level of satisfaction will be 100% based on the mindset you enter it with. If you hold the story accountable for how utterly nonsensical it is, yeah, you're not gonna enjoy it. If you choose to simply accept the experience and see where it takes you, you might. There's no right answer, but the second way is a hell of a lot more fun. Oh yeah, and the OP actually slaps. Easily in my top 3 of all time. I don't mean to imply that the only possible way to enjoy this is ironically there are plenty of people who like it for what it is. Though I was choking on laughter the entire time, even I found that by the end, I was at least on some level inexplicably invested in the plot and wanted to know just how high this fire could go. If you end up thinking the same, then know the manga has a lot more in store for you. It's not exactly happy, you'll have to prepare for some gut punches, but the characters are given far more depth, the art is great, and it's much better written, probably owing to its female authorship. It's not at all pure smut. It's legitimately trying to take a nuanced approach to the conflict between these characters' incredibly awkward circumstances and the messy, confusing feelings that they don't know how to suppress. Thanks to its proper pacing, it succeeds in this regard much more than the anime. I still don't quite understand how the manga manages to evolve past its ludicrous premise into something that ends up telling such a genuinely compelling human story. But it honestly does. There are some real highs and lows here, with moments that lingered in my mind for days after I was finished. Even though it's still occasionally trashy and melodramatic, that's kinda just part of its charm. It's worth noting that almost everyone hates the ending. But overall, it's uniquely pretty damn good, and worth your consideration if you're looking for more after episode 12. Team Hina. Anyway, if you identify with the dozens of other reviewers, who seem to think that any woman who acts impulsively on her emotions is a whore, then maybe stay away, and seek therapy. If you live in a prison of your own mind to the degree that fictional depictions of mild taboo absolutely sicken you, then again, stay away, and seek philosophy. But if you have a sense of humor, an appreciation for absurdity, and a healthy relationship with your morals, I can't recommend this enough. For all its flaws, it is legitimately one of the most entertaining shows I've ever seen, and may just lead you to a manga that defies your expectations. There's no guarantee you'll enjoy it as much as I did, but I implore you to consider all the boring, uninspired anime you've ever watched that you can no longer even remember, and know that, at the very least, this won't be one of them. Reviewers rating, 10. What did you think of this review? February 11th, 2022. Zverbia. Recommended. They'll keep it under 200 words. 100% spoiler-free. Domestic Kanojo is definitely a R+ mild nudity anime, and there will be enough fanservice for those who are looking for it. But still, it strives to tell an actual story and let its characters evolve, mess up, think, and react, as capable sentient beings, which is a true rarity these days, especially in this genre, who will doubt, regret, and let themselves be happy accordingly. This anime will appeal to you if, like me, you like lewd animes, but not dumb ones where nothing matters and every action is temporal, also where the story is just a filler between lewd scenes. Now, you might be asking, why give it an overall 8? Well, that's because I am striving to be fair, and if you pay attention, you can see where the budget was an issue while making this anime. Still, this is the most enjoyable 8 I've given. If I had to describe Domestic Kanojo in the fewest words possible, it'd be a surprise for sure, but a welcome one. Reviewers rating, 8. What did you think of this review? March 29th, 2019. Siri. Recommended. There are not many anime that have love stories like Domestic Kanojo. It takes the theme of a melancholic teen love story about unrequited and forbidden love, and quickly turns into something full of conflict in it. Most of the Domestic Kanojo actors consist of hypocrites who are upset with the fate of their love. Two sisters with opposing personalities live in the same house as the male protagonist. Sometimes they act unreasonably and can change their attitude to willingness, surrender to love. After all, love is a difficult thing, and teenagers are at the most confusing stage of their lives. But it becomes a question if what they feel is love in the first place when they can easily find someone else instead, sleeping with anyone who shows them even a little love. It's very possible that Rui and Natsuo might just fall in love with things like strangers, because they were the first people to give them that love, while a woman like Hina is undoubtedly possessed by a very twisted worldview. It becomes a wonder how she can even fulfill her duties as a teacher. She thinks that being an adult will always act wisely, but in fact isn't. She finally reached the point where she ignored his principles so far, and decided to become a person who thinks rationally. Each of the three main gets their turn to tell on many occasions, which are not good for explaining their motivations and feelings and for making them feel like the right protagonists rather than mere accessories for slaughter. Even if some receive less significant characterizations from the other, just showing two characters having sex or making out one another is not nearly the same as when accompanied by narration. When arranged with the anime's emotional soundtrack, some dialogues almost feel enthralling, and kisses can bring strength, even if it is between two people who really have no business kissing each other in the first place. It's quite unfortunate to have anime that isn't brave enough to draw sex in an honest way. I will admit that I am very interested in Domestic Kanojo. This is not because this is a bad anime, but because it aims to convey how true love is, which only contains pain and tears. Domestic Kanojo is about as far as anime is as fun as possible, and it never really aims to fill that gap with a lot of substance or meaning. The starting and ending points are the same. Indeed, the industry of anime is now soaring, and every time one of them is Diamedia. After producing extraordinary works, they are now increasingly improving their quality from time to time. Domestic Kanojo has amazing animation quality, ranging from details in the background to extraordinary lighting effects and camera angles that help bring the atmosphere of the scene to a different level than the others. But besides that, this is a visual pleasure that surpasses almost everything I've ever experienced. Most of them are also getting better in the sound quality section, starting from the opening theme, background, and closing themes. Rock songs, melancholy, etc. are in this series, but the highlight is the opening theme, which has reportedly been rising since the series' premiere. Love is blind, as the saying goes, but in this case they also have to be blind in the literal sense. Maybe they want to feel bad, maybe they just want to feel emotions, any emotions, but I will make sure you feel something. Reviewers rating, 8. What did you think of this review? May 26, 2019. Sir Junkin. Recommended. Spoiler-free. Well, where to begin with this mess of a show? For starters, Domestic Girlfriend follows the story of a young high school boy who develops romantic interest in his relatively young teacher, which then ends up becoming his sister-in-law, something of a unique story in of itself, but surprisingly normal coming from the anime manga spectrum. At first I was skeptical about watching this show, but as I didn't really have anything to watch at the time, I decided just to go for it. Turns out that decision is something I won't regret. The unique story was able to play with elements you normally aren't able to get from other romance shows, which created this mega guilty pleasure for me, which ended throughout the entire season. Each and every moment was sparkled with this pleasure, making the most basic, touching scenes a stream of enjoyment, and the basic bright art style complemented that. I don't think this is something you should watch if you're new to anime, but this is definitely something I recommend those that have watched romance for a relatively decent time, as I would call it a must-watch for those. Reviewers rating, 10. What did you think of this review? APR 2, 2019. Facets. Recommended. I started writing the script for this review within the first 2 hours I started watching this anime, it now being 1:30 in the morning. And all I can say about this anime is how gut-wrenching it is. It's not blood, gore or any sort of horror that's made me feel this way, but rather it's a heart issue. Issues of love, the characters coming to understand that emotion, and the feeling of that love being unrequited is making my heart ache, as I can't help but empathize with the male protagonist. We continue to watch this anime yearning for a peaceful ending. resolution and reconciliation between characters. And it's my hope that comes in time as I continue to watch the anime. At this point, this anime has had no issue manifesting an array of emotions inside me. I've felt sad to the point of tears, angry to the point of screaming, and a dull ache where my heartstrings are being pulled that I can only attribute to feelings of jealousy. Only 6 episodes into this anime, while not a masterpiece, has had the power to move me. And after thinking long about how this anime is able to invoke so many emotions in the viewer, I came to a simple conclusion: this anime, unlike many other romance anime out there, portrays a realistic view of romance and brokenness of human relationships. It's romance in the real world where not everything is straightforward. In anime where romance isn't like fairy tales are the princess and prince, but rather a story filled with unrequited love and love triangles. And then, along with that, jealousy, lust, adultery, unfulfilled desire, and awkwardness as the cast navigate their way through their own sexuality. It'll only be another 24 hours until I finish the anime that I can reflect on these feelings I've put on paper and properly review the anime. I've resumed the script for this review at 1 a.m. the next day, having now fully completed the anime. And now, after full absorbing this series, one can say that I haven't been moved by an anime in this way since I saw Re:Zero or Mysterious Girlfriend X. While not a masterpiece, there are so many great features to this anime that I'll look at following our standard review pattern with story, characters, art and sound. The story revolves around a boy named Natsuo Fuji who falls in love with his teacher named Hina. His father ends up marrying Hina's mother, and so they begin cohabitation. The story explores the relationship between Natsuo, Hina, and Hina's sister called Rui. The focal point of the anime story is around romance, and as I've mentioned earlier, this is done in a way that I didn't expect. You see, this anime depicted the reality of what some romance turn out to be. The challenge of being with someone, and the despair of rejection is something that many people can empathize with. So because the anime is this way, the story was mainly driven by the characters and developed as they continued to interact with one another. A key aspect of the story and of the character relationships that honestly isn't for everyone is the taboo being openly explored. In this anime, you'll see relationships build between a child, an adult, and between a brother and sister. And I feel there are people who, for them, this turns them away from the anime. But for me, it wasn't something that fazed me. Perhaps because it's a common occurrence in anime that the boundaries are often pushed. Or maybe it's because I've seen it in anime before that I was desensitized to the idea. But at the core of this anime is romance, sweet, sad, and real. And upon reflection, it could possibly be that the very fact the anime pushes these boundaries makes it so engaging. The viewer is kept on the edge of seat in fear for the protagonists. Are they going to be found out? Or will she reciprocate his feelings? We are left in heartache wanting the best outcome for the characters. And that's part of what makes the story so engaging. The story ends on a what seems like cliffhanger, with a little resolution, leaving the viewer in shock and yearning to see more. A perfect strategy to sell sequel volumes of the manga. The characters in this anime were great in a sense that they were relatable. Still love the characters. They were drawn well, had amazing voice actors behind them, and were relatable. So as for the art and sound, in terms of the art, I think it was done well. It was clean, and with the combination of the amazing voice acting and art, the characters' emotions were brought forth so powerfully. It was so easy to see their anguish, their feelings of hopelessness, and even when they succumbed to their libido and desires. The sound and art apart from this were done to a high standard. And while it honestly wasn't something I noticed, upon reflection I can see the effect it had on the viewer. So finally, while not a masterpiece, this anime was powerful. It moved me, made me feel what the characters were feeling. And I got sucked into the world, desperate to see resolution. Hence why I'm still awake at 1:45 typing this review. This anime is great for anyone who wants to see a romance anime that is real, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who hates taboo topics or romance that pushes the boundaries. Domestic Girlfriend is an anime that is truly unique in its own way, and will leave you wanting more. A perfect strategy to sell sequel volumes of the manga. Reviewers rating 9. What did you think of this review?